Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to 2_MK, restreaming, of course, to that channel as well. I am Kanzuki Dynasty, and we are doing our first of several parts of our bot tune-up, bot checkup segment, where we are going through all these bots and seeing how AE, and particularly the whole second V-trigger everyone gets, now affects them. Since obviously all of our bots were designed with the first V-trigger in mind, some of them might make use of their second one okay, some of them, the second one might not work out for them at all. But to figure that out, we have to check on them. So today and some of next week, we're going to be going over, going through all of our bots one by one a little bit, including the first few on my stream here. And we are going to try and see what's up with them, how they're doing in this wonderful new year, as well as figure out if there's anything we can do to make them better, or any changes that we may be able to make for them to fix up anything that's wrong. Some bots will be fine, some bots might even need a lot of work. Let's find out. So to start off with, we have RyuBot. Now, my RyuBot is actually not quite a pure normal RyuBot. He is a modified RyuBot for, well, basically for Kata 22. If you have only tried out our bots, you might want to look at our katas as well at 2-mk.org/katas, K-A-T-A-S. And there you can find a variety of situation training tools and such. But for the moment, this version of the bot is fundamentally similar to the base RyuBot. Its secondary purpose has changed a couple of things, but more or less it should function about the same way, and should theoretically still be good for its original purpose. So, for RyuBot, let's turn off this a little bit here so you can just see a little better. Alright, RyuBot's purpose is mainly to learn Hadoken punishes, a little bit of footsies, and similar such things. And the goal is to try and punish his Hadokens along with certain other things. Such as, yes, the dragon punches. I'm going to be going through a bit today with Sakura, and getting actually some of my first bot experience with her as well. Oops, V-triggers. So one of the things that we have with RyuBot, now that we're going through and looking at it, is he does have the ability to activate his V-trigger. I think all of our bots have the ability to activate our V-trigger. The question is going to be, for at least this stream, about the timings at which they can activate that, and how not to get caught in air tatsus. And what they do with it once they do, and how important this is. So let's see, with Sakura I can apparently punish with light kick into Shoken, but let's see here for at least those. One of the points on this bot was also anti-airs in the easy mode, so I get to see what I can do there and get a little used to that. Part of the trick punishing a Hadouken is going to be getting close enough to do it, and that is actually one of the parts of the bot's goal. So, more or less, we have a basic idea of his movement. It's relatively straightforward. It isn't too much affected in RyuBot's case by his V-trigger. As you may have seen earlier, he used that cancel once to make some things safer. Huh. Is that a punish? Problem partly being I don't have the startup frames on all of my buttons. I'd be a little surprised if it was quite that good, however. Alright, so after a minute or two of that, let's head over and change him off to V-Trigger 2. Which for Ryu, I believe, is this sort of parry setup. Now, since he isn't too terribly reliant on using his V-Trigger, I doubt it will make things worse particularly. Got an activation there. He uses his cancel, but... So, while it doesn't really hurt him at all, he doesn't really get to use it either much. I'm not sure how possible it would be to get a bot to use that extremely effectively. Especially for this particular... Oh darn, I do have to do that more complex combo. So yes, for RyuBot specifically... Ouch! Okay. Well, he is going to do that occasionally. And so the effect that's actually going to have on this particular bot is going to be if you stick out things that aren't possible or aren't valid punishes or whatever, sometimes he's going to get you. Depending on the timings he does it, it might actually hurt his Kata 22 functionality a little bit. But technically I suppose it's probably no worse than a parry. It just changes the timings available for your buttons a little bit. And since this is something you're going to have to face in a match with Ryu, that might not be a completely bad thing. Oh, well, yes, well, in that case, I forgot to think about the fact that the katas do not necessarily turn on all the inputs, and so kata 22 would not even have this input, then it won't be affected. Oops, well, I'll take it. But yes, as for the original purpose of the bot, it will make the footsies aspect of this a little more interesting, potentially, in terms of that being a thing that can happen to you if you try to push too many buttons, and just trying to get in on him so you can get some of these punishes more easily, since it is a little spacing dependent. I wonder if it might be a crouching button I need to use for this if I want a cancel off of it. Nope, counter hit. He is, as you might expect if you're somewhat used to Ryu, sometimes canceling out of the crouch medium kick much more often for his Hadoken than throwing it randomly in this case. Which unfortunately makes it a little harder to punish range-wise for me. So far it looks like it's mostly not harmful and maybe slightly beneficial, but not terribly much so. I wonder a little bit if it would be useful to have at all like maybe a negative points if you get parried or something by this, but what would that teach a person to avoid? It would mainly teach them to avoid beating up on him heavily while they're doing their training. I want to say I've seen him cancel his dragon punches, but I don't think he can do that. So I'm pretty sure I'm remembering something wrong. No, I bet I can. So, alright, I think RyuBot is probably simple enough in this particular regard. I think what would really be most interesting is if he can do his V-trigger out of a Hadoken. However, I think that that would only catch false punishes, so it's something that you could note then. And as a cancel, it would only work on the first activation otherwise, so it's not really a concern. So I obviously have a lot of practice to do against all of these bots with Sakura, but for the moment we are going to change over and have a look at Boxer, Balrog, Shadowloo's head accountant. Don't think I have any sufficiently fancy casino-ish stage, upscale or anything like that for him. So let's meet him in the Lair of Four Kings. Now where are you on this list? Starting off again with our V-Trigger 1 to get a little bit of a basic feel for the bot. Remind ourselves how it flows, show that off to you, those of you who have not seen it yet. Balrog is, he's about focus, and he's about making you really pay attention, and otherwise, well, I won't repeat it, but he has certain voice lines he can tell. Here, alright, so for him, he does not get his critical gauge. All the actions should still be on, and let's have a look at this. Alright, so, the points on this thought, one of them is to get a crouching medium either kick or punch combo in neutral, hit confirm style. You can get neutral jump combos, or you can punish taps 1 and 2, but not 3 and up, because those are just not punishable. This is going to cause me a little trouble, as I don't necessarily have the combos, and certainly don't have the accuracy, let's call it. As yet. Oops. Oh, they are. The taps, you mean? Alright, yeah, well, if the taps are slightly less safe, then we might need to update that a little bit. I can just hit him on his way in, depending what he does. Oh, okay. Noted. Go in the corner, please. almost, you can obviously learn to punish him and other such things, depending on what you're up to. He can mix it up quite often, so that can be troublesome. Ouch. He throws back. I forgot about this. Oops. Anyway, as I understand it, his current V-Trigger 1 helps out his bull rushes, more or less. Trying not to die against him is a little interesting as well. But let's see. Okay. So while this bot does get his V trigger meter innately, he uses it more or less straightforwardly as well. Let's have a look at number 2. I don't actually know what his V trigger 2 is, so I'm going to learn this out myself as well. See, was it, does he get a command throw? I've forgotten. I think I remember some of the Shadowloop folks getting command throws, and it might have also been him in his second V trigger. So he is trying to use the... I think he doesn't try and grab it, he's trying to use it. But so far not necessarily at times where it would matter to me all that much. It will really depend on its range, I suppose. Getting the punishes I deserve somewhat. I feel like that this V-trigger makes him a little less threatening because it ends up reducing his forward pressure a little bit compared to the previous version. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily affect much either. Yeah, it would certainly work a lot better if he had a way to approach into the spacing and then use it. That was the main thing I did note. That it could be threatening if he was able to use it right up. I can see how catching people off guard might be a little good for this spot with but I guess I'm not convinced if it's actually going to do that very much. If I'm, like, crouching right up in front of him trying to... Because it's relatively easy to get into this position to some degree. It's just survive, it's just, then being safe enough to do anything while you're there. It'll certainly get people in the corner. Oh, I get to see what's on here. Part-time worker from Japan. Yes, I think the main time he's going to land it is either if I'm up a little too close, or if I'm stuck in the corner. Which might just end up teaching people to jump out of there, which is not the worst solution in the world. It looks like it has decent range, although I haven't been able to test that necessarily very well with him. I think for the most part when training with him, I will still probably use V-Trigger 1. because, yeah, V-Trigger 2 just doesn't quite have the same pressure effects, and I feel like it gives me less opportunities to try and poke him and get that hit confirm setup there. Without necessarily adding a whole lot other than more damage. So that will probably be the conclusion for Boxer, and let's have a look at our next bot on the list, Akuma. As always, starting out with the V-Trigger 1 here. Despite having bought this bot right after this stage, right after our first stream, I think this is the first time I have actually been on it. So let's see here. For Akuma, our meter configuration is... For the easy version, I get both my gauges. He's gonna get his CA, but not his V-Trigger. And as it gets harder, the bars change a little bit, but this is my first time fighting him on Sakura, so... Oops. Why were they all off this time, I wonder? I hope we were getting all of the actions on BoxerBot, because if I misremembered that, that would have been unfortunate. But... in the meantime, it's relatively simple. He is mainly about dealing with Demon Flip to some degree, and so he's going to be doing that a lot, and I have to figure out how to deal with it other than getting myself hit. Ouch. Alright. So I get to punish his fireballs, stop his demon flip while he's still hanging up there in the air, which might be a medium Shoryuken sort of thing. I didn't see his bar actually go down when he used an EX. I wonder if that's a new thing. So what button would I even use for this? Oh right, Sakura has air throw. I'm gonna have to try that obviously, from at least this particular range, but... There we go. So that's one option I have, but it's not gonna work all the time because he can do that air fireball, and that's a problem for me. There we go, we got V-trigger activation in neutral more or less. That was not it, but okay. That actually makes me wonder if I can... No, mine is much slower than his. He can definitely do something out of that, can't he? Or is this a pure escape? There we go. He can certainly do it with the Dragon Punch, or the, not Dragon Punch, but... Alright, I am a Shogo now, and I can Air Tatsu, I believe. So, does Instant Air Tatsu work? Not there. But yes, the threat from his V-trigger in this mode. Well, first of all, he does not have his V-gauge innately. Wow, that's a ridiculously good button! Huh. Medium Shippuden, huh? Stop that. Yeah, not on those fireballs. If I'm gonna get past the fireballs, it's gonna have to be... well, quite frankly, a reaction to them. Or rather, to the lack of them. Hit you a little so you actually get your V-trigger and we can actually test these things. There we go. But yes, for the most part this is going to affect his shurikens and his air fireballs, making them even more of a pain, and probably limiting my options for dealing with him. Even preemptively, I cannot stop him. It doesn't look like my EX Shuriken works from that range correctly. But in any case, since the main threat here is that air fireball, let's move on and see what else he can do in V-Trigger 2. And of course give him a little V-meter to do it with. This is his 2-bar trigger, so that comes faster. Well, it certainly feels much more aggressive, but let's see if that holds out. Oh, huh. That's a really good button for this. Oddly. I'm not actually sure what this V-trigger of his powers up. Alright, I have done the phone a friend, and Akuma's second V-trigger is more or less meterless EX moves, I'm told. So... given that this bot gets his CA gauge fully, that specific aspect of it is not going to do a whole lot. I presume it also powers them up, but the only EX we're really interested in here is his EX, Demon Flip. Oh, we can cancel out of Sweep too. Alright, so that's the other thing to look for. I have not been running into that much because I am not spending a whole lot of time in Sweep range, blocking or otherwise. Honestly, I don't see myself spending a whole lot of time in sweep range overall here against this bot, if I could avoid it. And the bot will let me avoid it, even if players will not. Oh, darn it. I can't hold the back for that punish with the back heavy punch while I'm doing the thing. I'm really not trying to approach you in the air, though. He's doing a lot of... well, he's basically doing a lot of EX with that. Honestly, it's making it a little difficult for me to handle the normal ones. Let me check here. Although I feel like I'm not encountering any normal dragon demon flips to work with. Out of the corner. I really want to air throw him out of that hang, but the air fireballs are making that really not that easy. I have to react to that more or less. The neutral hang, if I'm going to do that. suppose I shouldn't be worrying about getting KO'd. It doesn't really take long to reset. I wonder if I can react to that with Otoshi and hit him before his red fireball recovers, because it does have a long startup. Actually, I don't know what all my jumping buttons look like. Alright, now I know what all my jumping buttons look like. I have missed the most obvious possible solution to this. Alright, I apparently have screwed up. And let's try this without his CA gauge. Which will probably make it a little easier, since I don't know who the bot means. So the real question is, does this start up fast enough to hit him out of his thing on reaction? And it might. I think that traded? I have to get the range just right, though. Oh, right! I forgot about that move, too. Oh, but the autocorrect is going to make that difficult if I'm at the wrong range for it. That hits? I'm shocked that this hits, but I guess it goes up to my full standing height? So if I'm right under him, it seems to work. Can't be too close, though. So how close can I be and have this still work? I'm not really using my meter for anything other than the metered punishes, so I'm going to turn that off as well. So the real question is now at this range, what can he do to me from there? Because I'm pretty sure this will even go under air fireballs. Now, unfortunately, it seems that right now I'm not getting any air fireballs. I wonder if that covers the other space. So we'll go under it, but he'll hang in the air long enough that he won't get hit. I guess I might need me a meter for that. Alright, so it looks like on reaction I can't do the takeoff quickly enough, so I can't punish it on reaction with Otoshi. I'm trying to do a DP at that range to see if I can punish with that. Although apparently my crouch medium kick goes really far, so I may not need to. Hadoken is definitely not going to work, but seems to have misadapted my muscle in there. trick with the rest of the points is being close enough to punish the Hadokens without getting thrown and such. Shoryuken is an escape tool, not something I'm used to. Wait, I can throw him out of that? Something must have been weird there. Yeah, he was on his way down. Okay. If I'm close enough to punish the fireballs, I think he usually goes over me. Otherwise, I can use my Crouch Heavy Punch relatively reliably. I bet it will work similarly on Karine now as well, that they strengthened that move a little bit for her. It's going to take me a while to be able to EXDP without CA apparently. But regardless, I think it is probably time to move on to our next bot soon. Yeah, I have not noticed a whole lot of detailed answer for him either. So, let's see here. Next up is Rashid. Now Rashid will need at least a little bit of tweaking since one of his points specifically references his V-Trigger 1. I do not have that stage. I will not necessarily say unfortunately, but we can pretend that he is the tornado that tore up New York.
I'm summoning a storm.
probably will not stay on V-Trigger 1 for too long, since it's relatively clear what that does and how it impacts things. But for tradition. Alright. RashidBot is supposed to have his critical gauge, I am pretty sure. Yes, and not his V-gauge. I, on the other hand, get only my V-gauge. So let's begin. Main targets of this one are punishing his EX Mixer, punishing his... That was good. And punishing his Eagle Strikes, actually. Both of them, technically. I have my own V-Trigger active, which is preventing me from getting one of the points. So I'll let him get that V-Trigger off once more, and then we can see what he does with the next one. Or not. My head opens are not fast enough. Even the EX one is quite for that. Should ask Amara how she punishes this. Use Disciple and all that. My Dragon Punches go pretty far, and he's something like minus 36, though. So I might be able to just do that. I have to actually hurt you to get you your gauge. And while I do, you're basically the same normal bot. Plan for punishing the air Eagle Spike though yet. No, I know the startup on this is atrociously long, so I cannot actually do that, but how wonderful it would be if I could. Oof. Okay then. I guess that would be projectile invincible, given that it's everything invincible. I think he's probably recovering before my Tatsu goes off, though. Yeah, okay. I can defend myself from his approach that way, but it's not a punish. Okay, so it changes his directions that he comes in. He goes through you either way regarding that. I feel like it's making him EX Mixer more. Don't know why that would be specific. No, can't punish the EX that way at all. Ah, that depends on position, actually. If he does it from far, I can punish it. Does not want to activate. Probably timing. Oh, he stayed in front. Thank God for autocorrect. Wait, what? It's gonna take me a while to stop trying to do that. Honestly, I sort of feel like it's better to use his V-Trigger 2 for this once you've mastered his V-Trigger 1. Because you can certainly learn to deal with the getting around the hurricane. But then this V-Trigger seems to result in him being able to mix up more somewhat where he ends up after these moves punish. Seems to like a CA right after he activates that. So on that note, let us skip over from Rashid and have a look at Menat. So Menat is, well, theoretically straightforward. The idea is that that orb is really annoying and you have to learn how to deal with it. More specifically, you need to try to throw her while it is out. And you need to, oh, I forgot to set her gauges, which are, I am on normal and auto already. She should be on start and start. There we go. So I get a point for punishing her dive kick with something other than a throw, point for punishing her slide with something other than a throw. Dear God. Ooh. tries a way easier time against her depending if I can get my Toshi stuff to go off. The problem is keeping track of where that orb is, especially right now. And not dying while you're at it. And of course I actually lose points for mediating her. So you can't win that way. So after this round, I will switch this over. She tends to use her V-trigger quite a bit, and quite frequently, basically whenever she has it, I think. Lost track of the orb being out. Alright, nice and straightforward with her current set of V-trigger and with the new one. Did I change that? Yes, I did. I think this one was, at least in the demos I've seen, they tend to release all her orbs at once. So actually in this case, the bot is not managing to use these at all. Well, that is relatively simple. It makes me curious what changed about the command for using her V-trigger, however. Well, alright. Looks like she gets a new move, although I don't know specifically what. And she can release them all at once by pressing V-trigger again, but since it can't cancel, presumably, it's not happening. exact timing she has to throw, I can almost just always do that. Not. That will make my round a little shorter. So 1. Probably not 3. What the? Oh, she didn't have her orb that whole time. Oh man. And that's what the bot is for. Minus 2 points. Oh well. And obviously with that, she's not quite as dangerous in that V mode either. So in any case, I think it is relatively clear that Menat needs a little bit of work with her second V trigger since she isn't able to throw the balls or make much use of it directly. And so on to our next bot, and possibly our last bot of this particular evening, Ken, our old familiar first favorite.
Safe at noon. Sakura.
Hey, I was waiting for you.
actually know what trigger I gave him. Okay. So, for KenBot, one of our earliest bots actually, I believe he just gets all of his meters, which is nice and simple. I think I get all of my meters as well, at least until I'm a little more comfortable with things. Auto, 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 auto. There we go. Ken was actually our very first bot that we released to the public. He is about punishes under pressure. Other than try not to get thrown. The goal is to do full punishes on various things. Dragon punches among them. Oops. Duck under his target combo as well. That one, you can duck under. And all of that. So I do not actually know what my max metered punishes are, and if I did, I couldn't do them. I'm going to do what I can for the moment. First of all, let's visit V2. In V1 mode, Ken uses his run to get in a little bit more, some sort of stuff like that. Oh my gosh, being in the corner. Oops. Presumably this V-trigger is crush counterable, although it might not be, since it is a V-trigger. Ouch. It definitely makes his fireballs more dangerous to get hit by. Not crush counterable. In fact, I didn't get a counter hit on that at all, which is interesting. Unfortunately, managing to stand up for that. There we go. I think what I'm going for is the crouch medium punch into DP into CA for the moment. Crush counters back medium kick into things. Definitely going to have some habits to change of my own. So obviously he does not advance nearly as much with his V-trigger as it is. Which actually makes it a little harder to get the target combo, I think. There we go. Too slow. I'm quite surprised that canceled, but okay. A point. Dang it. It's forcing me to know that throw range a little better because I can't... I feel like I can't rely on him to keep advancing. And I don't have the... I'm used to watching for the throw after the end of his runs, but he doesn't have a run anymore. That's what it is. Stop trying to be near you. Still gonna do that. Huh. Can't cancel that into that. That works. My particular version of this, I don't know if everyone's will, seems to stop just long enough before the throw that I can... If I'm holding back, I'll walk out of its range. Dang, that has got a lot of range on it. I wish he would use that more often then. Dang it. Actually, let's turn this on now that we are a bot that cares about it. 403 for that. It really does need that dash, at least without a little bit of tweaking. Did that have like a reset in it or something? Let's just straight up check how many hits my super is. Seven. Okay. I'm also going to start teching that. Which hopefully actually might affect its behavior a little. Getting in more of the things that I desire. I'm attacking it early though because of my old mess. Do I have to not cancel that? literally can't pull that out of anything. Dang it. Sweeps there now. I kept trying to tech him, but it wasn't a throw. It's a sweep there. I'm getting it a little bit more now. Along with the sweeps. Not sure quite what I did to change the bot's rhythm, however. Alright then, since it seems relatively clear how KenBot's affected by his new V-trigger as he currently is programmed, I will be leaving off our stream here for the evening, unless Lillian has anything else she specifically wants me to see or go back to for her. And otherwise, you may catch some perhaps more complex or unexpected changes to bots based on their new V-triggers in our next few similar videos. And of course, you can get any of these bots, all composed of standard Street Fighter input recordings, at our website 2-mk.org/bots. So stop by again next week for some more effectively previews or introductions to the bots, as well as examinations of where we might want to change them this year. And otherwise, have a nice evening.